breakfast with Bob.
And Poncho Man, everybody. Welcome back to Breakfast with Bob, our Kona World Championship edition from beautiful Huggos on the Rocks. My name is Bob Babbitt. Brought to you by HOKA Fly Human Fly, Master Spas, Precision Fuel and Hydration, Crush Your Race Nutrition, Outrigger Kona Resort and Spa, Deboer, and of course, our Challenge Athletes Foundation, our next guest, Ironman Hall of Famer, Mr. Graham Fraser joins us. Round of applause for Graham. Yeah. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. I had a nice bike ride this morning.
Did ya?
Yeah, you know, I always say when I get off the plane here, just the smell of the island and the feeling.
Yeah.
It's magic. So
it is magic.
You never have a bad day here.
No. So, did you race this before you became a race director?
I landed here in 1984 with a sleeping bag and a tent and a $200 bike and a pair of running shoes that weighed a pound each, and I didn't know how to swim, and I did the race in '84. So
you decided, and of course, there wasn't qualification or any of that crap back then. You just sort of raced.
They took 100 Canadians in a lottery.
Okay.
And I don't know, I just put my application and never thought I'd get in. And then I opened this letter in June and I go, oh my gosh, I got in this thing.
Good news and bad news.
Good news, bad news.
I win, but I better get my butt training.
I literally went down to the pool and I swam about 4 lengths and said, I'm in trouble. I mean, as a hockey player, I didn't know how to swim.
That is wild. So you finished this thing, and did it change you immediately?
Oh, yeah. No, I always tell that story. Like, I was 23 years old, and it was new then, right? Like, people didn't even know we could do it.
Right.
Like, it was kind of, so when I did it at 23, it kind of empowers you.
No
to
question.
think that you can do,
something
whenever there's
you
a
thought
challenge.
You couldn't.
Yeah, something you think you couldn't. So when there's a challenge, you go, I can do it. I
Right.
can do it. So, no, I found it very, empowering and rewarding. And
what was your career path at that point?
Oh, I just finished university. I didn't know. I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur and have my own business, and,
Right.
and I wanted to be in sport.
And you also were involved with film, right? You're in terms of when you were in college, but sort of dabbled a little bit.
Made a high school film with 2 buddies.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it was in film. We just made a
film.
We spent a year in our last year of high school making a feature film, and it was really fun. And the other guy was more the filmmaker, and we just kind of tagged along and we did it. But it
Right.
really created interest in it. So
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed film and loved watching films, and but then 40 years later, you get back into something different.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, just how life works.
So when you finished this thing, did you go home and go, okay, I need to put something like this on, or did it just sort of evolve?
Yeah, I played junior hockey, and I had done a bike-a-thon as a fundraiser for the junior hockey team that before I did the Ironman. And then when I came back, I thought, I went and met the Parks and Rec director about potentially doing a triathlon instead of the bike-a-thon. Because I just done this thing, and I thought, this sport's ready to do something. There was no races back in
the day.
Nothing. So we kind of, and he gave me the summer student to help me, who turns out to be my wife, who's sitting over here. So anyway, child labor and,
Yeah, of course. That's good.
So anyway, we put on this little race with 300 people in our hometown of Grimsby, Ontario, and then other towns started calling. Like, hey, this is a cool thing. We're a tourist town. Or really, Ontario called and said, we want to race. So then I kind of thought, well, maybe there's something here. So my career path wasn't a plan. It just evolved.
Well, and being an entrepreneur, you saw an opportunity.
No, I saw the opportunity. And,
and
I thought, well, maybe there's something here. And I didn't want to work in the corporate world. And I wasn't a finance guy. And I had more interest in sport. Even to this day.
Of course.
Everything I do is in sport.
Right. So now you're putting on events. And when did the Ironman Canada opportunity come up?
Well, we had a triathlon series back in Ontario. It became the biggest series in the world.
That was at the Subaru?
Yeah, well, it was the Royal LePage first, then different sponsors, then
Right.
President's Choice, and then the Subaru series. So
Yes.
the series is still going. It's 40-something years old.
Oh, my God, yeah.
So that's still going. But we had a series. We'd put on the World Championship in Muskoka in '92.
That's
that was
right.
our first big event. And then a guy named Michael Bregman, he put the money into Ironman Canada to keep it going when it went bankrupt. And he approached me and said, look, I'm having trouble with the locals in Penticton. Would you get involved and move this thing back to Ontario, into Muskoka, where we just put on the Worlds? And I thought, great, I get 50% ownership.
Wow.
Get to move it back to Ontario. A couple of people from Penticton flew out to meet me and convinced me to go to Penticton to see the community, to see what it meant to them, to see about keeping it there. And Michael Bregman left it up to me. And so I went out to Penticton in 1995. I just fell in love with the place right away, and I could see the passion for the locals. And I went to Michael Bregman and said, well, what's it going to take for me to keep it in Penticton? He goes, well, I don't want to really be involved anymore. If you give me my money back that I put in to keep it going, you can have it. That was $250,000 in 1995.
Oh my God! So that's $1 million.
Yeah, and
at least.
And it was $100,000 in the hole that had to be paid off that nobody knew about. So
wow.
Yeah, I always tell the story. I went to Sue and said, "Hey, we can buy this event for $350,000 that makes no money every year. What do you think?" And it's like, so
we call it divorce. Is what you call that.
But no, I knew we could change it. Like we looked at what they had done, and I thought and we had got some good sponsors in Ontario. They had agreed to come out with.
Right. Yes.
And again, timing. I could see that this thing was ready to go. Like you could sense that there's something in Ironman was going to go. So, and literally within a year, it just completely exploded and
started selling out.
It started selling out, and we did a lot of things to change it and bring on the sponsors, and that's kind of how it led to Lake Placid. And 3 years later, we launched Lake Placid. And
at that point, the only Ironman in North America, not North America, the only one in the States was in Hawaii.
In Hawaii,
right? Hawaii, and then you had Ironman Canada. Now, then did the Lake Placid reach out to Ironman? How'd that occur?
No. I got the call from Lou Frieden, who is now the president of Ironman.
Yes.
We'd seen Penticton explode, and I thought we're not, and people were lining up to get in. I said, "There's room for another race here." We thought there's,
Yeah.
And then finally, the board, Dr. Gills and all that, finally gave Lou the green light to give me a call to say go, because I had the rights to all North America.
Right. Now, did Lou know that originally? That you
no,
had the
Lou
rights?
knew that. Yeah, he knew that. Yeah, because it was in my contract when I bought Ironman Canada. WTC gave me the rights to everything.
Well, and probably from your perspective, you didn't want to be putting on Penticton and then have Ironman put something on in Seattle or something, right?
It was a defensive move. I said, well, I'm not going to put the money in to bail Ironman Canada out, and then you put races next door. So they said, well, we'll give you all the rights to North America. It was like I went, kind of got
that
it
works.
It worked.
Yeah. I don't need Guam. You could, you guys could have Guam.
You guys can do there, but we get North America, which is probably the best territory you could ever have.
Yeah.
And so when it came to look for it, so I went to Lake Placid. We went to Lake Placid, packed up the family, drove around looking for a place in the east when we thought we needed a U.S. race. And Lake Placid is the first place we went. I never went anywhere else. And I had one meeting with the people, and literally, they said, we want to do this right away. And literally everything happened in 5 days later, we announced the race. 5 days later, it was full.
It was sold out.
Sold out.
And this was right around the time of online registration. Like 98, 99?
Yeah, just starting. Yeah, 99.
Yeah, so the race sells out immediately.
And then I went, whoa. And then Lou and I started talking. I said, well, I guess there's room for another one too. And then I thought he was going to, a year and a half later, he said, no, let's do it this fall. And I said, oh, so you want me to start?
This was July for Placid.
Yeah.
And then we're talking November.
November for Panama City.
And that sold out too.
Yeah, it sold out too.
You're right. And then the following year, California, which
you were involved with. Yeah, we went out to Oceanside. Literally, we put on 3 new races in a year.
Right. And they all sold out.
Yeah, all sold
immediately.
Out. And we had 4 staff, 4 people. So no, it was really. It was
a great era.
It was really fun, but you just don't sleep, and I always tell people we worked really hard.
Well, the nice thing too is when you go to Placid, it's not like now where you got 8,000 permits and all this other things.
Yeah.
How do I get a permit? Call Joe.
Yeah. Oh no, I love that, sir. The mayor in the first meeting, I said, "Well, what do you do for permits?" Well, you just write them up and we'll sign them. The police were free. They just gave us the police.
Right.
Everything was it was a community rallied around to make it happen, and all the volunteers. That town's Lake Placid is a little village.
Right.
There's only 8,000 people between Lake Placid and North Elba, and we got all the volunteers, and we moved there. Our family moved there. We moved our staff there, and we
wow.
So it was a full.
You
court
raised
press.
your kids there.
Our kids were the first 5 years of their young youth was in Lake Placid. We just sold our house there this spring. We've had a place there the whole time. But no, it's still our community. Like Penticton and Lake Placid are still our homes.
Right. Yeah, and it's important. I think when people move into a community, you've got to be part of it.
You've got to be part of it.
Right.
And I played hockey with my buddies, and our kids all grew up, and so we really had this special thing with Ironman there.
Yeah.
And I think that's what made it work. It made it easier for the other races, because I would say if Lake Placid didn't work,
right,
who knows what would have happened.
Right.
Like that race was to me really pivotal in the history of the sport and what happened, because we got the perfect day. It all worked out, and then it just kind of launched everything. How many
Ironman events did you guys launch?
Our last year we put on 9.
9 of them.
Different,
Wisconsin, California,
we had Utah at one point. We had 2 70.3s in there, like the Disney, and then Oceanside turned into a 70.3.
Right.
So which is the start of that.
Right.
So we kind of got the front row to be part of it all.
So we've chatted for years about a need for a documentary on the sport.
Yeah.
Early years, 80s, and sort of the formative years of the Ironman. And then, like it was a year and a half or so ago, you were like, hey, I'm going to fund it.
Yeah.
I'm going to fund this because it's got to get done.
Yeah.
And it's hard to cart before the horse. You go get sponsorship, and then you have to answer a sponsor. And this way you can keep it pure and do the right stuff by the sport.
Yeah, and I think, part of it is like I always look at life, like the sport gave us everything we have.
Yeah.
And so, I'm getting older now, you got to give it back. And, like both of us, we do know all the characters. Like we grew up and we got the front row of all these people that made this happen. And we tried to do it 6 years ago and we didn't get the support at the time from Ironman.
Right.
But now we do. And,
they understand.
They're working with us. They've given us all the archives, the footage. I think it's an important story for them for their history, for where they're going in the sport too, because we want to keep the sport alive and well. And you can't forget that the heroes and the people, and there's fascinating stories. You've been at the interviews too, and I'll say it's even better than I thought it would be. The interviews we've had, and the stories, and the things I didn't even know myself, and like we've done Bob Iger, and I'm not going to tell the story, but how important he was to this sport.
Bob Iger was the president, now the president of Disney, but at the time, he was part of the ABC team for Wide World of Sports when they came over in 1980 for the first time.
He was just a young guy, producer at Wide World of Sports, and it was one of the things. And he is paramount to this and what happened. Like really, and that timed with what Julie, the event with Julie, and then Dave and Mark, and I still say that, it's funny. I was biking this morning and I was thinking, Dave's one of my. I really love Dave, and and I think the sport wouldn't be what it is without Dave Scott.
No question.
And that comes through in the movie. Every interview. Everybody we've interviewed said, who's the most important person in the history of Ironman, and everyone, Dave Scott.
Dave Scott, I would say the most important moment was Julie Kathleen.
Oh, yeah, the moment was Julie
Kathleen.
Absolutely.
But in terms of the person who was our, he was our trailblazer, right?
He's our Babe Ruth.
He didn't come into it going, I'm here to win. He was like, I'm here to go as fast as I can, right? So he took that course record from Tom Warren in 79 and 80. He took nearly an hour off the course record, and every year that's all it was about. Yeah,
and he was the right guy because he had the right personality. He was a good-looking guy, the personality, and he was quirky. And so when you had the Wide World of Sports and then it went to the NBC, he was the character.
Right.
And so he set the bar, and then Mark comes in to be the perfect antagonist. So I think, so the viewership and people seeing this sport is what drove it. But without those characters of interest,
right,
who's going to watch it?
Well, you remember, during the 80s, there was 3 television networks in the States, ABC, CBS, NBC. So when this thing aired on ABC on Wide World of Sports, everybody watched Wide World of Sports.
Everybody watched it.
We're talking, 20, 30 million people watching this recurring battle between Dave Scott and Mark Allen from 82, 83, 84, 86, 87, 89. This whole decade was those two guys, where one guy won every year here and one guy won everything everywhere else. Yeah. And they couldn't like each other.
No.
And that's part of the magic of this.
They couldn't like each other.
No.
But one of the things in the movie, you see, your antagonist becomes your friend.
Right.
And now we're, years later, and they are, I always say they're together now. Like, you can't say Dave without Mark or Mark without Dave.
Right.
And they have that respect of each other now.
What I loved was when we were there, Dave had heart issues.
Yeah.
And Mark went over to Dave's house, and when they both lived in Boulder, he could never go to Dave's house.
No.
They could never be seen together, right?
No.
So he goes to Dave's house right after Dave gets out of surgery, and Dave immediately hands Mark these little wrist grippers. And he's like, how many can you do? He's like, dude, I'm here to just see how you're doing from your surgery. And how many can you do? So Mark does 85, and Dave goes, I did 80.
I think he did one or two more than Dave. So like Dave was competing.
I mean, competing, and he's just out of surgery. But that's what made the magic of that so cool. And the plans for the film, when are you thinking of launch?
Well, we're kind of at the end of shooting now. Like, it's been almost a year and a half since we've been shooting, because it always takes longer than people think.
And your son's producing and directing.
Yeah, Luke's directing, and it's and he, my kids grew up around the story.
Oh yeah.
It's they know the people too. So, and they're in the film business a lot more than me.
Right.
So it's good to have them, and my daughter's in the film business, so it's really good to have them involved. But I think we're going to be editing. We just we're going to start editing. We're going to have our first cut by the end of January of the film. Which you'll see, and then then there's 2 more cuts after that. And our dream would be at Sundance in Boulder in
27.
Yeah, because they've moved Sundance out of Park City to Sundance.
To Boulder, the Holman Triathlon.
And what is more fitting than the Holman Triathlon having the Ironman film at Boulder? I mean, it's almost serendipity.
Some of my favorite moments of the filming so far, not to give away too much, was when Gordon Ramsay, who's one of the current athletes, and Lucy Charles Barkley, when he allowed the team to come and shoot him. Yeah. And I think one of the first things he said was, I love Ironman people. When I see somebody wearing an Ironman shirt, I go and hug them. Right? Yeah. Who would expect that from Gordon Ramsay? He loves this sport.
I mean, he'd get obviously a great interview. He's so perfect. You didn't have to do a second take.
No, of anything.
It was just boom, 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 boom. And the passion he has for it sells with the passion everyone who knows the sport.
Yes.
Like he's a good representative for the whole sport. Because he's busy, he's got all these things, but he's an athlete. Like
totally
he wakes up thinking, I'm an athlete and I'm an Ironman athlete.
Not just that, but the day you shot him, the day he was shot, he swam at 4:30. He rode 90K. Then he worked all day on Kitchen Nightmares. Yeah. Then he comes in for an hour interview.
Full of energy.
Totally energized.
Full of energy. And then I actually went and sat at the bar with him after, and we just chatted about, and I could see just how much he loved it. Loves the sport. So we've had it's been a lot of fun, and I like I say, I wanted to do it while everyone's still around. Like we got to tell the history, and then it's eternal. Right, we have to have an eternal story, and the Collins are here. We're going to interview them here, and there's just so many people, and and I guess and Valerie, passed away recently, and and again, where would the sport be without Valerie? Like people got to know what she did, and not just and I've spent a lot of time talking to Valerie the last year, like and it's the character she had, and she's such a sweet lady. Like some people could be bitter that she got out of it and then it boomed and she didn't make money and she didn't whatever. She has none of that. She had none of it. No. She was just so proud of what the sport became and just, just a really wonderful person.
I think what happens is when you talk to Gordon Ramsay, it reinforces the importance of doing this film.
Yeah.
Right?
It
because
does.
The passion he has for it that comes from, from John and Judy and from Val and from everything that came before.
And the one thing that, I think the sport Ironman, there's triathlon and Ironman. I look at them together but separate. Ironman to me is its own thing. I was thinking about it on my bike ride. We had the NBC show to keep it in the world. Like you said, millions and millions of people saw it because there was less media. Now there's this fragmented media landscape everywhere. Right. So, we got to make sure Ironman, because to me it's like you've got the Masters and you've got the Kentucky Derby and you've got the Boston Marathon. Like the Ironman needs to stay. It needs to stay in that tier of
no question
big things.
Yes.
And then it's more challenging now, right? You don't want to fall back into being a niche sport nobody knows. You want to keep at the forefront of what it means to be. You want to keep the spotlight on it. You're going to keep the spotlight on it.
Love it. Graham, thank you, bud. And it's going to be a fun project. We keep talking about this thing. It's going to get bigger and bigger. I love it.
Thanks, Bob.
Pancho Man, take us out.
And it's breakfast with Bob.
And Pancho Man, everybody.